Talk Radio WRNR studios. It's time for Eastern Panhandle Talk with Rob Mario and David Welch.
Thank you, Cliff. Good morning and welcome into the program. This segment of our show brought to you this morning. Hold on, I have to flip my page. By Bechtel Jewelers, West Virginia's largest Pandora retailer. We do live in South in Inwood, where this weekend you can check out the Christmas parade and the 5K run/walk. That's on Sunday, and that starts at 2 o'clock at the Randy Smith Rec Center in Inwood, right at Musselman High.
And when you get done, you can go over to the pizza oven.
Then you got the parade, right?
Right.
Right. You can get the pizza oven.
Yeah.
It's a big day.
It is a big day in Inwood for sure. A happy day for them. That's a great community.
They got traffic circles now.
I don't know what it is about our brothers Matt and Matt, but they've got the camera all screwed up today. This camera doesn't even, it's all off the hinges. And whoever sat in my chair last night.
Are you grumpy today?
No, I'm not grumpy, but I think I'm one of them, whoever sat here.
You sound a little grumpy.
Because no, not really. They change off back and forth. I think they have a hearing problem.
Are your cans too loud?
Oh my gosh, they have this thing like as loud as can be. I think.
Well, Crawford has very young ears, so he's used to very high volumes.
Well, that's probably true. I mean, one of them has an issue though.
Is this you?
Yeah.
I'm playing with the volume.
Yeah,
Is that better?
That's down too much now.
Is that better right there?
That's better right there.
I'm here to help.
Yeah, that's good. Appreciate it.
I want to be your friend.
What's on your mind today?
Well, did you hear the story on the network news about the ATM in Houston? They had to shut down.
I love that story.
They were giving
That's
out
never happened to me.
$100 bills instead of tens.
Never happened to me.
And then they told everybody they could keep the money instead of saying, bring it back. We have your picture. We'll press charges if you don't bring it back. You know, when you take money out of an ATM, they have your photo.
They're making you take it back.
No, they're not.
They're not.
They're letting you keep it.
Is that right? Lucky them. That's what I call good customer service. They obviously want to keep those people as customers.
But legally, they could make them give it back.
Well, okay, so would you bring it back if you got the $100 bills?
Yes, I would.
I would too.
I would.
It would be like stealing.
I have been given extra change on numerous occasions.
Too, as I have, yes.
Someone, young kid behind the register, gives you. Now, this happened more so in the past than in the most recent years, because when you get a transaction like that now, it pretty much spells out to the cashier exactly how much money you get back.
True, yeah.
Plus, I rarely pay in cash anymore. But when I was younger and I paid in cash,
yeah, I'm the same way.
There were times sometimes you get $5 or $10 or whatever just by accident, and I would bring it back. Now, I do remember one instance, and I've told this story before. Do you remember when the Susan B. Anthony dollars came out?
I do.
They were the size of a quarter.
Yep.
Right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I remember being at a McDonald's in downtown Pittsburgh. I was probably a teenager or young 20s, and someone asked for change. I need more quarters. And someone brought over some quarters and some Susan B. Anthony dollars, and the girl behind the register, teenage girl, she said, "These are dollars?" And her manager said, "Yes." She goes, "I've been giving them out as quarters all morning long." And those were the Susan B. Anthony dollars. Now, in that situation, you're probably not going to bring that back because you probably won't even notice it in those days for several days, because you remember the Susan B. Anthony dollar, they had to discontinue it because it was the size. It was a bad idea.
It was a bad idea. Yeah.
It was not well planned.
And Americans are very change challenged anyway.
Sure. Most people, you get change, you put in your pocket,
Sure.
you come and you throw it in a cup or something like that, right?
I'm sure that McDonald's had a shortage at the end of the day.
Oh, it's a good size one, too.
Good size shortage at the end of the day.
And I guarantee you, she wasn't the only one at that place who was making that mistake, or countless places across the country.
I would love to have someone, if someone takes that money back, who got the $100 bills, they're going to make the news. I would imagine.
I would take it
at least
back.
The local news in Houston.
If I didn't take it back, my conscience would eat at me
mine
for
too.
days.
Sure.
Right?
Yep.
But if you had it and the bank said it's okay to keep it, then I might go, all right, well, I might keep that then. I don't know.
I would like to hear from anybody who would not have done what we said we would do.
That should be our Facebook question of the day.
It should be.
Right? Sherry, maybe you want to post that one.
Yeah.
If you were in Houston or at any ATM and it gave you hundreds instead of tens, A, would you keep the money? And B, if the bank said it was okay to keep it, would you still keep it at that point? Because right now the bank is saying it's okay to keep it. If the bank told you it was okay to keep it, would you keep it?
Well, because you can defend that because you're not breaking any law. You're not breaking any rules. They've already told you that you can keep it. And so there's nothing that would be immoral about it. You've been told you can keep the money.
Well, there's nothing that would be illegal about it. But it's still not your money.
It's still not your money.
It wasn't given to you as something that you rightfully
I'm
own.
all, I'm all, keep in mind, in a bank, it's not like the bank's money. It's all of the customers who put their money in the bank, right?
And the shareholders.
Right?
Yeah,
Exactly. Well, there you go. We'll put that up on Facebook, and might get some good answers.
I'm
back.
a definite yes on the first scenario and a probably yes on the second scenario.
Are you?
I would still probably return it. And if I went to return it and they said, it's too much work, just keep it, that's another thing. Like that's happened in the past too, where I've gone to people and said, listen, I was over refunded this amount of money, and the company will go, you know what, just keep it because it's just too much hassle to try to fix it on our books. Right. I had that with a like an elliptical or a treadmill or something. We had a piece break, and they said, ship the old piece back. We're going to send you a new piece, but you ship the old piece back. I'm like, okay, fine. We'll send you a box for that. And they never sent the box. I'm not going to pay to ship back a defective part.
Yeah.
Right. They never sent the box. So in that case, all right. Plus, it's a broken part anyway. It's not like I'm going to do anything with it.
Hey, I was thinking today also about those 14,000 GM workers being let off right before Christmas.
And the crazy thing is GM stock price went up after that.
Well, as Phil says, investors want to see profits.
So
they're not concerned about layoffs and that kind of thing as long as their investment is making profits.
It's 14,000 people laid off.
Yeah,
I think
sad.
they said 5
Pretty sad.
plants closing.
5 plants. And in some strategic political states as well, which is why you've got the ire of the president.
Ohio being one of those.
Ohio, Michigan, two kind of key states that he carried closely last time.
As I understand it, though, this is in reaction. The tariffs are getting a part of the blame for this, but also if I don't understand this correctly, then somebody needs to put me on the right track here. But I understand part of this also has to do with the changing buying habits of the American consumer. We're not buying sedans.
That is absolutely right. I mean, so what do? Do you continue building sedans?
No, it's like the Seawolf submarine, right?
People aren't buying sedans. They're buying pickup trucks and they're buying SUVs. And so you hope that what GM can do with these plants is they close them down and then they have to retrofit them to build a different kind of car.
Are they doing that, though?
Well, I don't know.
I don't
know. I don't have enough detail on that. I'm sure they're going to be encouraged to do so by the president. But, I mean, the bottom line is the bottom line, I guess. But it's still sad. I still feel for those families, 14,000 people out of work right before Christmas and now needing to go out and find jobs in areas. Many of them have no training in other areas. Wouldn't that be true? This is what they do for a living. It's like a coal miner. That's what they do. That's how they make their paycheck, how they pay their rent. So it's sad. So our hearts are certainly with the workers and in hopes that they refigure out their life.
But if people aren't buying the product you're making, you do need to re-strategize.
Well, I mean, and it's not their fault. You wonder what the package will be. I had a client in Columbus, Ohio for many years who cut 10% of their workforce last March. And the 10% of the workforce that they cut was their marketing and branding staff. Mm-hmm. All of that, they just got cleaned out. Those are the people that we worked with. So it wasn't just those employees that lost their jobs. It was the vendors, such as myself, who provided an outside service for a decade, a lucrative contract that we had just done overnight. So it's not only the workers in this case, that my point of sharing that story with you, it's not just the 14,000 people, but it's the dry cleaners and it's the stores and the bars, or it is all of those other businesses that are supported by people who work in these plants as well. And that's, you look at Pittsburgh, and when the steel industry kind of went south in the 70s, right, 80s?
Sure.
You have all of those, you have towns that have never recovered along the river. Rochester, Aliquippa, Ambridge. These are towns in between Pittsburgh and Beaver, where my wife is from. And they've never recovered because it wasn't just the steel workers. It was all the other businesses that were supported by those people who worked in the steel industry.
The white-collar jobs, the first ones to go were always the marketing people.
Always the marketing people, yeah.
Those the first ones.
And that's generally when we work for, we're a very small boutique company that provides a high-quality service to larger organizations. Primarily, that's what we do. And so when they lay off the marketing, branding people, which is the ones that we work for, then we can suffer as well. That's happened a couple of times to us in the past decade.
You may have read in the Journal that fine article by Rick Kozlowski that David Walker broke the record for most wins by a West Virginia high school football coach when Martinsburg beat Musselman in the state semifinal last weekend. 290 now for the coach, I believe, is the mark. And
That's a lot of wins.
He'll join us via telephone this morning.
Okay.
At 8:35, right after the news break. Martinsburg and Spring Valley will play for the third straight year for the championship this Saturday at Wheeling Island Stadium. That's a 1:30 kickoff. And a nice article, by the way, on the Spring Valley football team on one of the websites, and that mentioned that they have 104 players, which is an astonishing number of kids playing football.
It really is.
Now, I don't know if that includes the JV program and the varsity, or if that's just strictly varsity. If that's strictly varsity, that would seem to be an absurd. First of all, you don't have enough numbers for 104 players because nobody in the history of football has had a triple-digit number that I've noticed. Somebody should. They shouldn't all be double digits. I'd like to see a 101 out there.
Well, the thing is, they don't all suit up, I wouldn't think.
It says 104. Like I said, I don't know if that's varsity and JV combined or what.
When I was on the Frosh soft team in high school, I remember that first year that we had over 100 players. We had like 110 or 120 players that came out to practice every single day and suited up and practiced. But in the games, we could only suit up 40. So I always wondered.
Why?
Well, because that was just a rule. You could not have on the sidelines of a game more than 40 players.
Who makes a rule like that in high school?
You know, Rob, I can't answer that.
It's a bad rule, Dave.
It was a rule. And so I always wondered, though, those guys that came out every day and practiced their hearts out, just wanted to play football, and were never going to stand on the sidelines, much less get into a game in a uniform.
That's the problem with your state of California, Dave. Too many rules. Too much legislation.
You know, I grew up in an environment, Rob, where not everybody got a trophy. Different than your generation.
They're not asking for a trophy there. They're just asking to wear a uniform and be on the sideline like they practice.
It didn't happen for them, and it was, I always felt, kind of sad by that.
I
was the first string quarterback, so on that team. So
when did everybody get a trophy come into play? About what year did that start to rotate into the consciousness?
I don't think that Andrew and Peter, my two boys who played youth sports, are now 33 and 30.
Did they get a trophy?
I don't believe so. I don't remember them getting that. So it had to happen somewhere after them. So they would have come of, I don't know, they would have been in high school in the mid-90s, I guess. Well, no, they graduated from high school in 03 and 07. Mm-hmm. So they would have been playing youth sports like 10, 11, 12-year-old age sports when around, late 90s or very early 2000s.
When I was a little kid,
and they didn't get a trophy for finishing last.
Like for baseball, everybody got a trophy at the end of the Little League before you went into like Pony, where you went to 90-foot base paths. So at the end of your Little League experience,
Pony was only 75 foot.
That's the middle.
Yeah, they had 75, and then in Colt League they went to 90.
Okay, so at the end of your Little League experience, you got a trophy. That's the only trophy you got in youth baseball that I remember. I played football. 5th grade was the first year you could play football back then at my school.
Mm-hmm. Tackle football?
Yeah.
Suited up.
You could play in 4th grade in the public school leagues, but the Catholic school leagues you couldn't play till 5th grade.
Okay.
So I never got a trophy at all in football until we won our division in 8th grade. Then we got a plaque for being co-champs of the division. The team we were co-champs with, we literally were co-champs with because when we played them, we tied them. So, and they didn't do overtime back then, and there wasn't a championship game. It was you played your 8-game division schedule, and at the end of that, whoever the champion was the champion. So we were co-champs, and we all got a plaque. That's the only trophy I ever got out of football. And then in high school, they don't do participation trophies in high school. If you earn a varsity letter, you get that, but that's it. But when my kids were playing youth sports,
and they're in their early 20s now,
and they're 24 and 21,
right?
99 would have been the first year of youth of sports participation by my oldest son, and that was like the little 5-year-old soccer and t-ball, and everybody got a trophy every year for everything in youth sports all the way up. So when I started to run the soccer program, because that's kind of where my kids were concentrating when they were in their wee years, One of the things we did was we eliminated the everybody gets a trophy thing after the age of like 7.
You big meanie.
Totally. And we did.
You did that? That was your idea?
Us as like a soccer council, excuse me, we did that. And the reason why we did that is because we were getting complaints from parents that their kids had so many trophies they didn't care about them. You know, they had like 8 basketball trophies and 8 soccer trophies. I mean, because you get one every spring, every fall, every season.
And then they go on the shelf, and many years later, you come back with a friend and you say, "Oh yeah, see, I got that trophy for finishing. That was my trophy for finishing 9th place in 4th grade soccer."
So, and it wasn't
hardly
just 'cause
something
you played.
to be proud of.
It was just because you played. So, and then if you were in a tournament and you won the tournament or got 1st or 2nd place, there was a trophy for that. And the kids kind of cared about those trophies. But the only kids who really cared about trophies were like the really little ones, the 4, 5, 6-year-olds. There's like their first trophy, and it was pretty cool to get a trophy because you're little. And you don't really understand the whole I earned a trophy versus, hey, they gave me a trophy thing. So we let them have their trophies until they were about 6 or 7. And then we cut those out. And we did get some complaints, oddly enough, from the oldest of our group, the 8th grade group, before you go into high school and still rec league. So the 13-year-olds, the U14s, the coach said, you know, the trophies were always a big part of our awards dinner. And what we said was, look, if you want to do trophies for leading goal scorer, leading goalkeeper, leading goalie, whatever, most valuable player, we can do that. We can do 2, 3 trophies per team based on merit, but we're not doing the everybody on the team gets a trophy thing anymore. It's just not meaningful.
What was the thinking behind that trend that started that everybody gets a trophy?
Every child is special. We need to build their self-esteem.
I see.
So, as they said in the Incredibles,
but
when everybody's special, nobody's special.
They could have gotten a certificate, maybe. I don't know. I just went to an awards ceremony 2 Saturday nights ago at the National Press Club. And it was, I think I talked a little bit about this on the Monday afterwards, but it was an annual event called the Peer Awards held at the National Press Club. And it's kind of like the Academy Awards of the Mid-Atlantic states, in which people who produce films, videos, whether it be commercials or documentaries, a number of different categories, are judged by their fellow producers, directors, writers, and they give out a gold, a silver, and a bronze in a number of different categories. Most people who go to the banquet don't win anything, but those who win a gold, they get a really cool little glass statuette. Looks really nice. And those who win silvers and bronze get a really nice certificate that you can frame. I mean, it comes in, it's oversized. It's got nice calligraphy on it. It's really well done, but it's not a statuette. It's a certificate in which is suitable for framing. I think that was a nice way to do it, keeping in mind they're very competitive awards. Most people don't win anything. If you win a gold, you get a statue. If you get a silver or a bronze, you get a great little certificate. So that's a nice way. I thought that was a nice way of doing it.
They have awards, you know, for best talk show and best radio station and best whatever in this industry too. And I always thought in regards to those awards that they aren't really meaningful unless you know who the competition is. Like if you're competing for best talk show, who are you competing against?
Well, the West Virginia Broadcasters Association, as you well know, has an annual contest in which they award a number of different prizes. We did not, the last 2 years, we've not entered that. We're not members of the West Virginia Broadcasters Association. So one thing I
think we are.
Oh, we are now?
Yes. I asked Mr. Hornby had a change of heart on that.
He did. Okay. Well, last year we weren't, and we did not enter into any of the categories. So we certainly weren't. They certainly weren't competing with us. So I think though those that enter best talk show or best morning show, best evening show, whatever categories they have, I'm pretty sure you're competing with all of the other stations in the state of West Virginia.
Well, but you have
and they have
different categories.
a large station category and a small station category.
Right, but you don't know who's entered. Is my point.
You do not. Yeah, you don't.
You don't.
Right.
And I always thought, in regards to those, when you win something like that, I'd like to know who I competed against. Did only one other station enter that category? If 20 stations enter and you win, to me that's meaningful. If 2 stations entered and you won, yeah, it's not really meaningful.
I get that. Sure,
right?
I get that. You don't know. I do know that about 10 years ago when I was at another station here in West Virginia. I was named as the talk show host of the year, and I was very proud of that. I got a nice plaque. I think it's still up in my office, as a matter of fact, somewhere on a shelf, I think. But I remember being, that was pretty cool to have won that. But then I realized that it was based upon an entrance that our producer, Din Jae Young, had entered like a minute long or 2 minute long or 3 minute long segment. So here they're making a judgment on talk show host of the year or news radio station of the year based upon a 3 minute segment, audio segment that you submit. Now, how in the world do you make a judgment and say, I mean, I was proud to have the award, don't get me wrong, but how did 1 3 minute segment, I don't know, make me talk show host of the year?
And who did you win it? Who did you compete against?
I have no clue.
And that's
I think I was at the time probably competing against the guy who was at this station. Probably would be one of them.
Yeah, and who else in the state? That's the big question. But they don't tell you that.
No, they don't.
I think that's what makes an award meaningful is if you know who you're competing against.
Yeah, and they don't give, in that case, they don't give gold, silvers, and bronzes either.
You get an award for being the best, and then you get, also, if you're close, you get another one like a certificate.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Kind of like a silver medal then?
Kind of like hey, you were close.
Yeah.
Close
but no cigar, man.
You didn't quite pull it off, but you were close.
Oh.
Just don't know how you can listen to a 2-hour show and decide for 3 minutes that this is the best one, right?
I watched another Christmas movie last night. I've got Sunday and Monday now. I'm still on track for a Christmas movie every day of the Christmas season.
Was Lori Loughlin or Candace Cameron Bure in the one you watched last night?
No, it was the star from High School Musical, and I'm not thinking of her name right now.
I'm afraid those two are starting to age out of those movies. That's a problem.
They might be.
It's 8:31. It's time for our news break. David Walker will join us via telephone up next, and this segment was brought to you by Miller Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, Route 9 east of Martinsburg.
CBS News Update. Paul Manafort will have to pin all of his hopes for freedom on the president now. Special counsel Robert Mueller says a plea deal is null and void. CBS's Elaine Quijano.
Prosecutors say former Trump campaign chairman Paul Manafort lied to federal agents after he struck a plea agreement in his fraud case. In a statement released Monday, prosecutors said Manafort lied about, quote, a variety of subject matters which constitute breaches of the agreement.
Manafort insists he told the truth. Correspondent Paula Reed.
The fact that he wasn't able to sort of hold up his end of the bargain, wasn't able to be honest and helpful to the special counsel, well, that almost guarantees that he is likely to spend the rest of his life in prison unless he receives a presidential pardon.
President Trump is tweeting today, blaming what he calls a $30 million witch hunt on a terrible gang of angry Democrats. He says they've got nothing done but ruin lives. CBS News Update. I'm Deborah.
Now your local news from Talk Radio WRNR. A week ago, a physician at Berkeley Medical Center told police he'd overheard a man saying he was going to shoot up the place once he got out of there. Now he's accused of making that and other similar threats of violence, including against a big box store and Jefferson High School as well. The Herald Mail reports 27-year-old John Phillips of Ranson was in Eastern Regional Jail last night on a $30,000 bond. He apparently also said he intended to end the spree by provoking the police into shooting him dead. It started Sunday afternoon with a 911 call from someone saying he'd heard an explosion near the Argo cement plant in Martinsburg, and he heard right. That explosion in the dust collector caused a fire, which took crews a few hours to put out. No one was hurt in the blaze. Argos officials are still trying to figure out why it happened. No one was hurt in the fire at the Macy's Fulfillment Center near Martinsburg on Saturday night, but enough property was damaged over there to keep the place closed both Sunday and yesterday. I'm Adam Boardman, Talk Radio WRNR News.
The Tuesday morning weather map's pretty quiet for us here across the eastern panhandle, right on through the middle of the week into Thursday. We're looking at dry conditions with sunshine. It is going to be a bit breezy, and it is going to be cooler than average, too, so some winter chill definitely into the area here. Our forecast high by the end of the day, close to 40 degrees. Winds will be coming in from the west, 15 to 20 and gusty, though, so it's going to feel like 30, if not the 20s every now and again through the rest of the afternoon. Variable clouds overnight, lows in the upper 20s, but again, gusty breezes making it feel like the teens, and tomorrow's high near 40, again, making it feel like 20s to 30s. I'm Bob Kukin, Talk Radio WRNR.
Since 1877, Farmers and Mechanics Insurance Companies have proudly supported our local community. Farmers and Mechanics has the insurance products to meet your needs, including home, auto, farm, dwelling fire, business owners, and umbrella coverage. Please contact your local independent agency for a review of your insurance needs and ask for a policy from the company that knows you best. Farmers and Mechanics Insurance Companies, just off Edwin Miller Boulevard on Administrative Drive in Martinsburg. FMIWV.com. EPTA invites you to take advantage of their rider programs, the $5 all-day pass, the monthly pass, and the Get a Job, Get a Ride program. Visit EPTAWV.com for further details and come ride with us. This message brought to you by EPTA, the Eastern Panhandle Transit Authority. For schedules and rider information, visit EPTAWV.com. EPTA serves Berkeley and Jefferson counties.
Take the bus, come ride with us.
Join Blue Ridge CTC's Foundation for Merry and Bright, a holiday social to benefit student scholarships, featuring Scrumptious Delights, magical carriage rides, sugar sculpture demos, and more. To purchase tickets, holiday cookies, gingerbread houses, and sponsorship donations, visit www.blueridgectc.edu/foundation events. For more information, contact 304-260-4380 or foundation@blueridgectc.edu. Merry and Bright, Friday, December 7th, 5 p.m. to 7 p.m., 13650 Apple Harvest Drive, Martinsburg.
Hi, honey.
Where are you?
I've been in line at the post office for the last 30 minutes.
Why are you at the post office? It'll take you all day.
Where else do I go to ship my packages or drop FedEx off at?
Honey, going postal is way faster, has less lines, and friendly service.
Where's going postal?
It's right in the Common Shopping Center in Martinsburg. They'll ship your packages quickly, and you can avoid the lines.
Going postal should be your first choice for all your shipping needs. Going postal, the Commons, Martinsburg.
You're really busy. Got it. The last thing you want to think about today is a funeral home. Got it. But a little forward thinking now can save you a lot of heartache later. It's easier than you think. We're Brown Funeral Homes, family owned, in business for over 135 years, since 1880. And we're home based, right here in the Eastern Panhandle. Think smart. Think ahead. Brown Funeral Homes, Martinsburg, Inwood, and Charlestown, Ranson. Brown Funeral Homes. We're here for you.
This segment of our Tuesday, November 27 program brought to you this morning by L.A. Roberts Jewelers, committed to excellence in quality design and craftsmanship in historic downtown Martinsburg and celebrating 100 years in business. L.A. Roberts Jewelers. Thanks for being such a loyal sponsor, and for so long too.
Absolutely.
Awesome
I don't know if you covered this on your This Day in History or not this
Maybe.
morning. I wasn't listening at the time.
It is early.
But on this day, on November 27th, in the year 1095.
1095.
Yeah, did you cover that?
Honestly, I can tell you whether or not I did in a second. Go ahead.
Pope Urban II launched the Crusades by calling on all Christians in Europe to war against Muslims in order to reclaim the Holy Land with a cry of Deus Vult, or God wills it. And so here we are 1,000 years later. Just thought I'd throw that out there with a little perspective, because not always do the Muslims and the Christians around the world get along.
And there hasn't been a grudge out on that at all. By the way.
1,000 years ago. So when you're looking at kind of things that started a long time ago and kind of, sort of, are still around.
Like I said, they haven't held a grudge on that at all.
There's one to think about.
Here's what I did do. Did you see the movie Gladiator with Russell Crowe?
Yeah, many years
ago. One of my
ago.
favorite movies.
Yeah.
It's one of those movies, if it's on, I have to watch it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Today.
1995?
I think it was like 98 or 99.
Okay.
It's pretty late.
Pretty close, huh?
176 A.D., Emperor Marcus Aurelius. Remember that name? Excuse me, from that movie. Grants his son Commodus the rank of Imperator and makes him supreme commander of the Roman legions.
I love that title.
Right?
Yeah.
Commodus. Would you like to be known as the Imperator?
Yeah, good to have family connections.
From now on, Dave, you are the Imperator of this show. I
Thank
grant
you.
you supreme command of all of our legions.
And I'm not even your son. Also, 40 years ago today, in 1978, not maybe big news here, but certainly in California, it was on this day that Harvey Milk and George Moscone were assassinated, and in the city of San Francisco. And I lived in the city, and the guy who committed the crime ran out of City Hall and right across the parking lot where I lived.
Dan White.
Dan White.
You're
exactly.
like Forrest Gump.
Yeah, so...
that kind of made Dianne Feinstein's career, too, because she's the one who found the dead Harvey Milk, if I remember.
She was also, that gave rise to her elevation as a member of the Board of Supervisors, gave rise to her becoming mayor in 1978. So it really did launch her on a very long and successful political
73,
career.
the 25th Amendment came into play. The United States Senate voted 92-3 to confirm Gerald Ford as the Vice President of the United States. The House didn't confirm him until December 6.
And I was actually working for a member of Congress on Capitol Hill in August of 1974. I was a summer intern for a congressman on the day that Gerald Ford became president, on the day that Richard Nixon resigned, and Ford became president. I was right there on Capitol Hill, and
again, Forrest Gump
got to be right in the middle of the action.
Speaking of commanding legions, he commands legions of young men, and he is the head coach of the Martinsburg football team, and nobody in the history of the state has commanded them to more victories than this guy, who on Friday, with a win over Musselman in the state semifinals, became the state's all-time winningest head football coach, David Walker, who's with us courtesy of the WVU Medicine Jefferson Medical Center talk line. Dave, good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning. I've got to say I'm enjoying the history lesson.
And Coach, this is Dave. I my nickname is by most people around here. My nickname is D-Dub, but I'm going to share that one with you.
That's right. He's the D-Dub
right.
also.
I've been called that a time or two.
All right.
Yeah. David Walker, David Welch.
D-Dub, the D-Dubs of Martinsburg.
Yeah.
Here we are.
David, hey, congratulations, Coach. That's a lot of wins.
I've been around a long time.
That'll happen. But you've won a lot of games a long time, too.
Yeah, this is my 31st year. It's went by really, really fast.
And 290 wins, correct?
289.
I guess I was assuming one that will not come until Saturday afternoon, right?
Well, let's hope. We got our hands full. There's no doubt.
This is kind of interesting. This is like the trilogy, right? The first two matchups against Spring Valley, Martinsburg winning both. The second one, you're trailing at halftime a little bit, and then you come out and score 4 in the second half to go on to win that one comfortably. This is the third one, and this, as they say, it's tough to beat a team 3 times. Vic Holmes' corollary to that has always been not if you're the better team.
Yeah, easier said than done. This is probably their best team, but you know, when you get to this stage, anything can happen. So I think you got the 2 best teams playing, and it should be an exciting game.
They apparently have a gigantic offensive line. We know one of their linemen has been an early commit to Ohio State, and I think Matt relayed to me
that's big.
Yes.
That is very big.
Yeah, you can't get much bigger D1 than Ohio State at this time. But I know that the Spring Mills head coach had mentioned that he's not seen a bigger football team than the one Spring Mills brought out in their game. The one Spring Valley brought out, right?
They look like a college team.
Yeah.
I've seen Division II teams not as big. But, you know, they got a kid going to Ohio State. They got a kid, I think, committed to Louisville. Like a couple other kids offered. But, you know, we play against kids that are Division I talent all the time. So, but these kids are a little different. They've got a lot of experience. They're really big, and they just kind of swallow you up. So hopefully they don't lean on us too hard.
They attempted in one of your previous playoff games, title games against them, if not both, excuse me, to just line up and try to power you. And I know for one series it worked for a score, and I think that might have been your first matchup against them. But
actually,
then
last year they took the opening kickoff and ran off about 8:41 off the clock and scored. And that's always their game plan. They try to keep the ball away from people, make the game faster, and get it over with. And you're going to have limited possessions against those guys.
Coach, what kind of strategy going into this game is different, somewhat different, or different at all than perhaps some of the ways you've approached other teams? I mean, if this is the best team you've faced all year, probably is, I would imagine. Do you see adjustments as you go into the game during practice this week that you've got to work, or any adjustments that you need to make to maybe tighten up some weaknesses?
Yeah, I mean, I think defensively, you've got to prepare for what they do, whether it be put an extra guy in the box, change your front a little bit. Offensively, we've got to find a way to get our guys out in space. They're so big, and we really need to try to make those guys run and chase us. And that's the problem. They're just so big, and they play really well on defense. So we're going to try to get our athletes out in space the best way we can, and then let those guys, make plays. But they're a little different this year than they have been the last 2 years. Last 2 years, they were really kind of one-dimensional. This year, they've got a kid that throws the ball, that he's throwing for a lot of yards, and so they can mix it up. So it really challenges your defense as far as, not getting a lot of sleep, and all of a sudden they throw one over your head. So you really have to be fundamentally sound.
I would imagine at an emotional level, Coach, that given the season that your players have had, and we understand that they're all boys. I mean, they're 14 to 18 years old. I mean, they're not grown men yet. But there has to be, I would imagine, a real deep sense of confidence in this team. When they walk on the field, they're walking on that field or running on the field expecting a victory at the end of that game. Is that basically kind of size up the emotional attitude of the team, or is there still a little fear when they go out there against any opponent?
Well, they're pretty confident. I want them to have fear's a great motivator. The fear of failure motivates certain people, and other people aren't motivated that way. But I think our kids do play with a lot of confidence, and I don't know that, the last couple of weeks in the playoffs, I don't know that we really played that on a really good emotional level, because sometimes I just felt like we were going through the motions because they knew they were the better team. This week they better strap them up. They better put a little extra tape on their hands and stuff, because this is going to be a dogfight.
David Walker is our guest, courtesy of the W Medicine Berkeley Medical Center talk line. His Martinsburg football team has a championship matchup for a third consecutive year at Wheeling Island Stadium this Saturday at 1:30 with Spring Valley. And this is a matchup that looked like when you started the season, you kind of picked these two teams in advance to kind of get to this point. And Dave, you mentioned that you felt like your team might have just been going through the motions the first couple of weeks of the playoffs to get to this point. And it's kind of got to be difficult for you as a staff and for them as players when you go through a season rarely challenged and you kind of already think, this is kind of where we're going to wind up. All we got to do is take care of business to get there. It's got to be difficult to find a way to motivate kids week in and week out, and indeed for them to stay focused week in and week out when you win by so much all the time.
Yeah, and, you really have to challenge them in as far as trying to take it day by day and trying to make those guys realize they need to get better. There's things they can do better. But when you win easily at times, and then plus you have a lot of people telling them how good they are, their parents, their friends, everybody tells them, oh, you guys are going to blow this team out, you're going to this, you're going to that. And then, we have to reel them in at practice time and try to make them understand that, it's not so much about the other team, it's about us. We have to work on our things that we need to do to make sure we're getting better. And the other things kind of take care of itself. Coach,
I don't know if you know this or not, but my co-host, Rob Mario, is an assistant football coach on the Oakdale, Maryland high school team. And
I did know that, and congratulations, Rob. You guys have had an outstanding year.
Thank you, Dave.
They're playing in the state championship in Annapolis this Saturday, so I guess that's the same day that you all will be playing it. So everyone's asking the question, when does Oakdale and Martinsburg play against each other? We're waiting for it.
They might be a little bit above our level. They're pretty good. I don't know. They might be.
Dave's trying to bait me.
No, I'd never do that to you, dude.
Oh, man.
But, we're always looking for games, but I understand that you get to a situation, and I'm sure Oakdale is in there as well. You start really being successful, and it's hard to find games. It's hard to find people that will play you. And usually if somebody will play you, they must be really, really good, or they wouldn't play you. So, right now our schedule's full, but you never know what the future holds.
Well, you had to go to Philadelphia to find a game earlier this season, so you have proven that you'll go anywhere to play anyone.
Well, I feel comfortable with our kids playing against anybody that is a public school with the same enrollment. So I'm not sure how big Oakdale's enrollment is, but if public schools that are anywhere from 12 to 1,500 kids, I think we match up. We can play with anybody with that size. The problem is you got to play teams that have 2,500 students in them, or private schools want to play you all the time. And I don't think it's really fair to our kids and our program. Everyone wants to see us play this school and that school, and I'm like, it's just not fair. But that's a different conversation. But it is tough to find games.
I think that's a perfect way to sort of frame up or put parameters around the kind of teams you'll play. Any public school that's about the same size as Martinsburg, you're saying bring it on. I think that's perfectly okay and understandable.
Dave, this Spring Valley team you're about to play, have you played a team similar to them in your time at Martinsburg, say, over the last 7, 8, 10 years?
We've played teams that have a similar style, but we've not played anybody as big as what they are. I mean, other than the previous 2 years when we played them, because they've always been big.
Yeah.
But they are a smash mouth, very physical. Their kids are just, relentless. And, we're not a power team. So we don't, certain things we don't really match up well against. We're more of a, we're not going to run over anybody, but we do hit you with different things. We make you defend the whole field, and I think that's where, our strength is. But, that style of football, the old Fort Hill wing tee and, those type of things, 20 years ago, everybody ran the wing tee and was smash mouth, and it's kind of evolved, and everybody's is a spread zone, inside-outside zone team with the RPOs. But Spring Valley is kind of a throwback. They line up and run after you, and, you don't see that all the time like you used to. So it makes it hard to prepare your kids for it.
You mentioned the spread offense and the inside-outside zone, the RPOs, and Rick Kozlowski did a real nice article on you breaking the all-time wins record in the state yesterday. Mentioned the fact that while you were at East Hardy, you were the first one to kind of jump on that offense, which I remember Rich Rodriguez was kind of really the first guy I remember when he was an OC, at Clemson, I think? And then got the West Virginia head coaching job. But I know you've been to his clinics in the past, and you adopted that and brought it in. What appealed to you about that style of offense? Because you were one of the first ones at the high school level to get on that. It was not a popular concept at the time.
Well, when I was at East Hardy, I had a kid that could throw the ball really well. He happens to be the principal here at Martinsburg High School now. And,
he's your boss now, right?
Yeah. We, I don't know if you've ever heard of a guy named Mouse Davis. He's
Sure,
absolutely. Been an innovator of the run and shoot. And
Houston.
He had a bunch of these videotapes and stuff. I think he coached at Detroit or somewhere.
Yeah.
And, so I really started studying that stuff, and I would go to clinics. And Rich really started running this offense when he was at Glenville, and I had a relationship with those guys, so I'd go out and spend a little time with them. But it really has evolved over the years. I still use some of the wing tee principles in our blocking schemes along with the zone concepts. But I think as a coach, if you're going to stay in this business, you have to evolve. You have to adapt your offense to your players, and you have to evolve over the years to stay current and to mold your style around the athletes that you have.
Yeah, that's a good point. And when you're on top, it's difficult to remain on top by staying stagnant, because when you're on top, everybody's chasing you. And that leads me to my question with this Spring Valley team. You've been to Wheeling as a coach who's lost in the title game, and you've been to Wheeling as a coach who's won in a title game. And you've brought teams with you who have returned players who have both lost and won in title games in years past, including this one right now. Is there an advantage one way or the other, or an edge, going into a game that you've lost before or that you've won before?
That's a good question. I think it depends on your philosophy. I mean, for me, I think I know going there 4 years and losing before we ever won one, I think there is a lot of pressure that builds. Now how you handle pressure is how everybody handles it differently. I would think, I think our kids are very confident, having been there and won. And I'm sure Spring Valley, maybe they're using that as a motivating factor, as a revenge type deal. I don't know, but I think if you've been there and won, I think it relieves a little bit of pressure from you as a coach, and maybe as a player as well.
When you lose in that situation, and maybe you fall behind early the next time you're there, is there that inevitable feeling of, oh, no, here we go again. We got to make sure this doesn't get out of hand right now?
Well, I think it depends on who you're playing, who your team is. The times we were there, 3 out of the 4, we got beat by better teams. They were just better than us. We got caught in that mud bowl. I felt like we probably had a better team, but sometimes if you're just, the last one we lost in 06, Parkersburg, they lined up and just whipped us. And you're disappointed, but sometimes the better man just wins, and
Sure.
It's just life. And you deal with it. As long as my kids are giving forth effort, and they're working as hard as they can, and they're playing the right way, I'm proud of them regardless, win or lose. We want to win, but we understand that you don't win every time. So, but as long as you give it your best shot, and you pick up the pieces afterwards, I'm going to be proud of them either way.
Dave, we have a caller with a question for you. Patrick is holding on the WVU Medicine Berkeley Medical Center talk line. Patrick, you have a question for head coach David Walker from Martinsburg.
Yes, I was just curious. I haven't heard anything about the documentary that was filmed yesterday or last year on the team. Is there anything in the works for that to be released anytime soon?
Good question.
Well, it is they submitted it to the Sundance Film Festival, and I don't think it got picked up. Right now, the company that owns it, Uninterrupted, LeBron James' video, whatever you call it, their production company, they are holding the film waiting for a buyer. And so right now, as a matter of fact, I talked to the director and producer yesterday, and right now it's just kind of shelved until they find a buyer or find a market, and at some point they will either put it, Uninterrupted will release it. If they don't find, there's been 3 or 4 different companies, Sports Illustrated, Fox News, some other things was interested in it, but they have not pulled a trigger on it. So right now it's just kind of in limbo.
I'll bet if your winning streak reaches the tops in the nation, they'll have a buyer.
It's an interesting story because, football is the backdrop, but it really deals a lot with the opioid
right.
issues that we have here in the state and in our area. It's really a great story, and it showcases some of our kids. But it'll eventually people will be able to. It'll be out eventually. I wish I had a better answer for you to tell you when.
Is there a name? Is there a name to the documentary? Do you know?
You know what? It is. It's called Addicted to Winning.
Oh,
good play on words there.
I think it's what the initial name of it is. Unless it's a chain, you never know until back in production.
Have you had a screening of the movie? Have you seen it?
I've seen. I have seen parts of it, and I've seen just clips. He sent me clips and certain things, and so it's really, really well done. Especially the game footage. These guys are really, really tops in their field. This is what these guys do. They really did a nice job of it. So I've not seen it in its entirety, but I've seen clips.
Patrick, thanks for the call. Good question.
Thank you. Good luck, Dave, this Saturday.
Thank you.
Much appreciated, Patrick. Dave, what time are you guys taking off for Wheeling? You going Friday, I presume?
We are going Friday. We are leaving at 11 a.m.
The good thing about going there every year, which you just about do now, is that you know what door squeaks.
I pretty much copy and paste my itinerary from the previous year, so it's not hard to prepare. What you do have to do, and I'm actually in the middle of doing it right now, is you have to do your room assignments, hotel assignments.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of paperwork that goes along and a lot of media stuff, but I don't get to spend as much time reviewing film like I'd like, but you have to put that in there as well. But right now, when you're going to Wheeling, there's a lot of things that have to be done behind the scenes that people don't realize, and especially me also being the athletic director, I get to double the load. Plus, I got to make sure everything's here with the rest of our sports is going fine, while I'm leaving.
That's why you make the major dinero, Coach.
I don't know if I would call it major, but it does pay the light bill.
Yes.
It does pay the light bill.
I think I get paid December the 1st, and I think when I divide the hours by the money, it's going to come out to about 12 cents an hour, I think.
Yeah, I don't get paid for coaching. I get paid for for my administrative stuff. But I wish it was reversed. but that's just the nature of the beast, and none of us do it for the money, obviously. But
sure.
This profession and this, it's really been good to me and my family, so I can't complain a whole lot.
We have about a minute left. Riley has a question for you on the WVU Medicine Berkeley Medical Center talk line. Go right ahead, Riley.
Oh, I didn't have a question.
Oh, this is Riley Moore.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. You're in the next segment. So go ahead and wish Coach David Walker all the best as his team goes to Wheeling this weekend, Riley.
David, best of luck.
Thank you, Riley.
Thank you.
I got a note from our producer, Sherry, that Riley has a question. So
I
that's what
don't.
it was.
Best of luck, though, and we're all rooting for you.
Thank you.
Dave, thanks so much for your time this morning. Much appreciated.
Appreciate everything you guys do.
And hope to talk to you on Monday here, sir.
I hope I'm in a good mood.
Yeah, I hope I am too. Hope we're comparing notes on Monday morning.
Good luck to you as well.
Thank you, sir. It's 9 o'clock. This is Talk Radio WRNR Martinsburg, and as you may be able to tell, Delegate Riley Moore will join us via telephone coming up after our news break here on the program, and we'll be right back with more after this.
News on the Hour, sponsored by TheraWorks Relief.
I'm Deborah Rodriguez. President Trump is on the defense after special counsel Robert Mueller called off a plea deal for his former campaign manager. Correspondent Stephen Portnoy is at the White House.
It's not clear how the special counsel's office claims to know Paul Manafort has lied. It's something his attorneys deny. But prosecutors are now urging an immediate sentencing, saying any deal for a lighter prison term is off. Once again, there's speculation about the possibility of a presidential pardon. Mr. Trump has called his former campaign chair a good man and repeatedly spoken of how unfairly Manafort has been treated. Just this morning, he tweets, Robert Mueller has done tremendous damage to our criminal justice system, where he's only looking at one side and not the other.
It's probably safe to eat romaine lettuce again if it wasn't grown along the coast in central or northern California. The FDA believes it's pinpointed the source of an E. coli outbreak. Food safety lawyer Bill Marler.
If you can't tell, or if the restaurant won't tell you, or your grocery store won't tell you where it's from, don't eat it. And if you don't know what you have in your refrigerator is or is not from California, throw it away.
More than 60 people have gotten sick. A total of 9 students have been diagnosed with adenovirus at the University of Maryland. One has died. Her parents blame Olivia Paragold's death on mold in her dorm room. They spoke to CBS's Jerika Duncan.
So she saw the mold? Was it on her clothes?
Oh, yeah, it was on her shoes, on her tables.
Yeah,
it was everywhere.
Collect on their shoes overnight.
Doctors at Johns Hopkins say they would have given Olivia different treatment if they knew she had adenovirus. U.S. retailers report a record-breaking Cyber Monday with an estimated $7.9 billion in sales. Amazon says it sold more than 100 million items since Thanksgiving. A top executive at Facebook has been on the hot seat for hours at a hearing in the UK. Live to London, and CBS's Vicki Barker.
Lawmakers from 9 nations, including Canada, grilling Facebook executive Richard Allen about how hundreds of millions of Facebook users had their data sold to shadowy organizations trying to influence election outcomes.
We're protecting our community from bad actors. That's a recent statement from Facebook. Has it occurred to you that in relation to privacy, Facebook might be becoming one of these bad actors?
I don't believe we are.
CEO Mark Zuckerberg blasted for his refusal to testify, an international clampdown on his company's practices virtually certain to follow. Deborah?
He's one of the richest people in the world, but China's People's Daily reveals the founder of tech giant Alibaba, Jack Ma, is a member of the Communist Party. S&P futures are down 11. This is CBS News.
To experience relief from muscle cramps in your legs and feet, use TheraWorks Relief Fast-Acting Foam. Get TheraWorks Relief today in the pain relief aisle at your local pharmacy or TheraWorksRelief.com. To experience relief from muscle cramps and soreness, use TheraWorks Relief. This fast-acting foam is proven to prevent and relieve foot and leg cramps. Get TheraWorks Relief today in the pain relief aisle at Walmart, CVS, Rite Aid, and Walgreens pharmacies or TheraWorksRelief.com. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. ZipRecruiter posts your job to over 100 job boards with just one click, and then their smart matching technology finds the right candidates. Try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/CBS News.
Liberty Mutual Insurance knows you're focusing on the road right now, so we'll just describe the advertisement we mailed you. There she is, the Statue of Liberty printed on a premium sheet of high-gloss paper. The message reads, Liberty Mutual customizes your auto insurance so you only pay for what you need. You'll think, wow, this is top-notch marketing that makes me want to reconsider my insurance provider.
Go to libertymutual.com for a customized quote and you could save.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
Coverage is underwritten by Liberty Mutual Insurance Company and affiliates. Equal housing insurer.
Now your local news from Talk Radio WRNR. It started Sunday afternoon with a 911 call from someone saying he'd heard an explosion near the Argos cement plant in Martinsburg, and he heard right. That explosion in the dust collector caused a fire, which took crews a few hours to put out. No one was hurt in the blaze. Argos officials are still trying to figure out why it happened. No one was hurt in the fire at the Macy's Fulfillment Center near Martinsburg on Saturday night either, but enough property was damaged over there to keep the place closed both Sunday and yesterday. It will reopen today while authorities continue to look into the fire. Last Monday, the first day of the traditional buck firearm season, West Virginia's nearly 250,000 deer hunters killed nearly 13,000 bucks, which is less than they took in last year. The season runs until this Saturday. The Blue Ridge Community and Technical College Rotaract Club is sponsoring Pictures with Santa this Saturday from 10 a.m. till 3 p.m. at the main campus in Martinsburg. The event is free. I'm Adam Boardman, Talk Radio WRNR News.
The Tuesday morning weather map's pretty quiet for us here across the eastern Panhandle, right on through the middle of the week into Thursday. We're looking at dry conditions with sunshine. It is going to be a bit breezy, and it is going to be cooler than average, too, so some winter chill definitely into the area here. Our forecast high by the end of the day, close to 40 degrees. Winds will be coming in from the west, 15 to 20 and gusty, though, so it's going to feel like 30, if not the 20s every now and again through the rest of the afternoon. Variable clouds overnight, lows in the upper 20s, but again, gusty breezes making it feel like the teens, and tomorrow's high near 40, again, making it feel like 20s to 30s. I'm Bob Kukin, Talk Radio WRNR.
One day, I'll teach chemistry to kids.
I'm going to be an architect.
My dream is to be a chef.
This is a world of possibilities. A world in which people who put their minds to something can really make a difference.
My goal is to help the environment.
Someday I'll find a cure for cancer.
At the U.S. Department of Education's Office of Federal Student Aid, we believe that aspiring minds can achieve anything. So we dedicate ourselves to making sure everyone has an opportunity to go to college. Each year, we provide more than $150 billion in grants, loans, and work-study funds, making higher education possible for anyone at any stage of life.
I can go back to college.
I can change careers.
I can make a difference. Federal Student Aid, proud sponsor of the American Mind. Learn more about money for college at studentaid.gov.
It's time to turn up the pressure.
Down the floor, into Canate, slam dunk to tie the game. Takes him into the lane, puts up a shot. Rejected by Lamont West.
It's time to push the limit.
Down the lane, puts up an alley-oop. Float, one hand, slam dunk.
It's time for Press Virginia.
His shot rejected by Canate. Canate threw it away.
Tickets are on sale now at WVUGame.com. Secure your seats today.
Brown Funeral Homes and Cremations, Robert Fields and Sons, a family-owned full-service funeral home proudly serving our area since 1880. Our wonderful producer, Sherry Dieter Davis, who I partially threw under the bus on the Riley phone call.
Yeah, you were a little brutal.
Not long ago.
I took her side.
You had to. You really need to suck up for a while to build your credit back up. Whereas I'm in pretty good standing with Sherry.
I don't
You're
think
kind of
that,
teetering on the cliff.
You know what? I don't even think. I think you're like been drinking or something to say things like that.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty accurate with that description. I think I'm dead on.
Oh.
But nevertheless, anyway, my apologies to Sherry. When I got a note that said Riley is on the line, I thought that was a question for Dave, and it was simply Riley calling in for his segment right now. By the way, Sherry says, and our wonderful producer is Sherry Dieter Davis, we have 53 votes from our Houston ATM question of the day, which is the ATM that gave out $100 bills.
Yeah, drum roll, please.
Instead of tens as a mistake, and then ultimately said customers can keep the money. We're not going to try to get it back. Would you give the money back if you received larger denominations than you were supposed to from an ATM machine? 53 votes. 36 said give it back. 17 said keep the money, which means overwhelmingly, Dave, we have a very moral audience.
Yeah, we do.
That would do the right thing.
Indeed.
Overwhelmingly.
Hey, wasn't that cute of me to bring Dave Walker into the D-Dub Club?
Wasn't that cute of you?
It was cute. Yeah, I thought it was cute.
That's what
it was like a bonding
question of the day.
You know what I
Maybe
found?
that should be our secondary question of the day.
So.
Was it cute of Dave to also call David Walker D-Dub?
I don't think we're going to do
Sherry,
that.
could you get that one posted?
Yeah, please don't.
No, please do.
Please don't.
I think it'd be kind of a nice question.
I learned when my brother Craig and sister-in-law Vicky, Craig and Vicky Welch, were here for Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
We were comparing notes. And D-Dub was the nickname Chris Strovel first started calling me.
His
D-Dub.
invention, yes.
And
he dubbed you D-Dub.
He D-dubbed me. And I learned that Craig and Vicky have nicknames back home where they live amongst their friends. Craig is C-Dub, and get this, Vicky's V-Dub. I like the V-Dub. Has a
it's a dub theme.
Yeah.
If your last name starts with a W.
Exactly.
All right.
I mean, I drive a V-Dub, so.
I used to.
Yeah, there you go.
19 years of Jetta.
Mm-hmm.
Then it died. But I got my money's worth.
My Chevy died last week. Did I tell you about it?
Yes, you did, actually, yesterday. Are you getting that old that you can't remember your story from yesterday on the show?
You know, Rob, I remember everything.
Apparently not.
I remember everything. Once I don't remember it, then I remember it.
Roy
Does that make sense?
Sent us a picture of his change jar. We were talking about loose change in the first segment. He's got a couple of good-sized change jars. Keep those under lock and key, Roy.
Why did he do that?
Because we were talking about spare change, right?
Oh,
I remember him at the McDonald's
he's going
store.
back there and seeing if he's got any Susan
B.
Anthony dollars
in the quarter slots.
Yeah.
Right. On the WVU Medicine Berkeley Medical Center talk line is Riley Moore, who is still known as Delegate Riley Moore, for another month. Riley, good morning to you, and now you are in your appropriate segment as opposed to the David Walker segment. Hello, sir.
Good morning, Rob and Dave. That kind of freaked me out. I was like, am I in the wrong time frame or wrong day? Apologize for my voice. I'm a little under the weather, too. So that's why I thought maybe I was a little foggy. And I'm like, did I just call in and ask a question? I don't
See, Riley, doing a talk show isn't easy. I mean, you just learned it. You have to have questions in your mind. And
you do.
You got to, you've always got to be thinking one step ahead.
You do. And you have to bring the caller in his correct segment as opposed to the wrong segment, which I did, and I blame myself now fully for that. Riley, this is the first time we've had a chance to talk to you since the election. In the meantime, you've declared yourself as a candidate for state treasurer, the office currently held by John Perdue, and I want to talk to you about that, but I also want to talk to you about your reaction to the election results from election night earlier this month, about, almost 3 weeks ago. Now, were you surprised by those results? Obviously, you weren't happy with them, but were you surprised by them?
The turnout was surprising, certainly, and the amount of effort that we put in, certainly, I'm very proud of everything that we'd done. But certainly, it was a surprise. When you have your kind of vote total goals in elections, I far and exceeded my vote total goals, but there was more people that voted in my single-member House race than any other single-member district in the whole state. So it was, massive turnout. I mean, I had almost 1,000 more people vote in my district than in Jill and Paul's.
Did Rockwool seal your fate?
No, I don't think it sealed my fate because there was no Republican in my district that won. So even Jane Tabb, who was ardently against Rockwool, lost in my district as well.
You know, Riley, I have been talking about this district, the 67th, now for a couple of months, in that it is beginning, if it hasn't already changed, to look like a district that resembles much more a Maryland or a Northern Virginia district than it does the other parts of West Virginia, even Berkeley or Morgan County. You've got 2/3 of the workforce that goes out of the district to work in one of those states, or if not the District of Columbia. You have a highly educated workforce, and population that I think is looking like one of those suburban districts that the Republican Party lost so many of on Election Day. And
even in West Virginia, Jefferson, Mon County, and Kanawha. I mean, those kind of urban, suburban areas.
But I mean, in this case, though, I just think that in a way, the biggest surprise was that you won that district at all 2 years ago. I think this is this was drawn to be a Democratic district. It is a Democratic district that you kind of were lucky enough to rent for a couple of years. I'd love your response on that. Am I right or wrong?
Well, no, since if you go look at the trends of it, Republicans had been winning it at the top of the ticket since about 2008. And that was around the time, it was drawn to, first time the district was drawn in was 10. So Republicans at the top of the ticket had won it. Morrissey and Mooney had always won it. And it started trending, certainly Republican, after it was gerrymandered now by John Doyle. And but the turnout that you had, I mean, nobody could have modeled for. I mean, you had unheard of numbers in Shepherdstown, approaching 70% turnout in some precincts. I mean, that. So
I agree with you that turnout obviously is a factor. Now you've got to look beneath that and say, well, what was driving that turnout? Rob threw out Rockwool to you, and you're saying that wasn't really a big factor.
Oh no, I'd say it drove turnout. It drove turnout. Rockwool specifically, did I win or lose on Rockwool? No, I don't agree with that, since Jane Tabb was against it and she lost too. These people in this district were not going to vote Republican, and I think it was really a county-wide, to an extent, sentiment when. You have your top of the ticket, who's from Jefferson County, is losing and lost handily his home county. It's going to be a bad night.
Yeah, that's an interesting factor too, that Morrissey lost the county to Manchin. So all of those things play.
And he usually wins by 15 or 20. Right.
Well, I mean, some have said he didn't campaign hard enough in the Eastern Panhandle, and Manchin virtually lived here the last month of the campaign. And sometimes, so sometimes people win and lose campaigns because the other one just runs a better campaign. I mean, and then that does happen. Do you think you ran a campaign? Do you think John Doyle ran a better campaign than you?
Well, no, I don't think that. I think it's just the turnout. There were a heck of a lot of Democrats that turned out. More so than they have in previous election cycles. If you look at 2014, Stephen Skinner won with 2,636 votes. I got over 3,300 votes.
Interesting. Well, let me tell you, I think
and if I were if you were to take that vote total and put it in Jill Upson's or in Paul Espinosa's district, I win.
Yeah, interesting. Well, I know I speak for Rob on this as well. You have been fantastic as to this station and to this program over the past 2 years, and we want to thank you. Throughout your time in office, you were readily available to talk about issues and policy and politics, and we're very grateful, and we will miss you in that role. And but now I suppose it's time to look forward, and you are not quitting yet. Talk to us about becoming the West Virginia State Treasurer.
Well, yes, I'm exploring that option. It's something that I've pre-filed for right now. The night after the election, particularly in the role that I was in as the incoming majority leader in the House, I had a lot of my colleagues reach out to me and say, please, this can't be it. You got to run again. You got to run. You got to take your message and your fight to another level. And have you ever thought about treasurer? And said, well, a little bit, but not too much. Kind of thought I was going to be majority leader in the House, and that's what I was going to be doing for the foreseeable future. And they're like, take a look at it. And I really started thinking about it. And it's an office that for a while I thought in my mind does have a number of functions that I think could perhaps be done better, and then aspects of it that are kind of duplicative or superfluous. And so I started looking at it, and, the treasurer is the chief financial officer of the state, the CFO. And I think from that vantage point, I can take, my small government vision for the state, trying to right-size the government in the state to match with our shrinking population, try to find greater efficiencies and oversight within the state treasurer's office, and try to streamline its current functions and get more of, return more of the taxpayers' money back to the people of West Virginia, which I think is going to be critical for us to be able to continue to grow and flourish. So it's something, I've always been a fiscal conservative, and that's something that I'd like to bring to that office, and I think it's something that the people of West Virginia would certainly like to see as well.
We're talking with Riley Moore. He is the delegate from the 67th District, and his final month in that office, and is looking at the possibility of running for state treasurer in the year 2020. Did you know, Riley, that no Republican has held this office since 1928?
Well, that would not surprise me at all, given
that's
that,
a long time.
Yeah, we've only had two Republican governors, two people in the last century that were Republican, so it's not particularly surprising. The statewide offices, the Republicans just recently started to crack that glass ceiling. And look, I got a lot of fight left in me, and it wouldn't be the first time I took a Democratic seat. So the seat that I took in the 67th had never been held by a Republican. So I certainly got a track record of being able to flip seats, and I'd like to be able to do the same here.
John Perdue won this race in 2016 with just barely 50% of the vote over his Republican opponent, Ann Erling. There was a third-party candidate in that race as well that took a few percentage points, probably away from the Republican. He ran,
I believe a libertarian.
Libertarian. He ran 20%. Ann ran, I should say that Ann Erling, the Republican, ran about 20% behind Donald Trump in that 2016 election. So you look at a state that's trending Republican and won every office, I think, statewide, except for this one. Is there something about John Perdue that Republicans just really like?
Well, they didn't win governor. Remember, Justice
Well, that's
switched.
true. I forgot about that. That's a little footnote as well. The
Yeah.
Democrats actually won the governorship.
No, it didn't win. Now, Treasurer Perdue has been in for a very long time, since 1996. And certainly there's some built-in name ID there. But I think at this point, Ann Erling was not currently an office holder. I think I have pretty good name ID throughout the state myself, just through my work down in the legislature and a lot of the successes that I had down there that not only helped the Eastern Panhandle, but helped the entire state. And I want to continue to try to build on that and move forward.
Riley, good.
No, you go ahead, Ron.
I was going to ask you, what at this point, are you 100% committed to doing this?
We're looking at it. I mean, I'm I'm leaning towards it. And certainly still having those conversations with my family, but I wanted to publicly announce to people that this is something that I'm strongly considering.
See, now I'm going to share an honest feeling with you. What my first reaction was when I received this information, and this may be a totally different perception in 2 years when this election actually takes place. But my first thought was, fresh off of a loss in your own district, declaring for a statewide office like treasurer, it seemed to me to be office shopping, which is something Natalie Tennant was criticized for while she was in office as Secretary of State. You lose a race, you lose a race, you run for another office, you lose a race, you run for another office. And the impression I got was not a positive one when I first received this news. Were you at all concerned about how this might be perceived coming off of a loss in your own district?
No, I mean, all the feedback that I've gotten has been 100% positive. It's the first time I've heard of office shopping as it relates to this. The way I've heard it from my still current colleagues and folks from around the state is they think it's tremendous. You're going to be able to continue to build on your success in the state legislature and take the fight to a higher level, and which was a level that I was able to reach really in the state legislature as the majority leader, and so it seemed appropriate to try to look at a statewide office.
Most of us, I think, when we know the name is prominent in the state, and I think when people think of you, I think they think of a person with higher political aspirations. Is the treasurer's office a stepping stone to get you to be governor someday, or senator, or representative? Do you view it that way?
No, I don't view it that way. I mean, certainly we all have plans, right, until they get changed. And my plan was to be in the state legislature for as long as the people would have me, and apparently it was only a couple years. And but I still think that I was very successful in my public service, and I want to continue to try to build on that. And this just seems like another challenge to me that I want to undertake and continue to try to move West Virginia in the right direction from this office. So, would I run for something else after that? I have no idea. I don't know. If I do a good job, we'll assess it then. And if the people are happy with what I've done and feel good about what I've done, I'd assess it from there, but I can't speak to it because I haven't even gotten there yet.
One of the things I've always admired about you, Riley, is that you are very policy oriented. You actually read the bills, you study them, you come up with ideas. You're a big thinker, and as you explore the possibility of running for treasurer, you also have to keep in mind, I would imagine, you tell me I'm right or wrong on this, but I would imagine that other things could happen too. Let me play out an example. Jim Justice decides he doesn't want to be governor again. Mac Warner decides he wants to run for governor. Secretary of State is now open. Any of those possibilities might make you, at least in this exploratory phase, would any of those things make you take a look at or drive you to looking at either governor or Secretary of State rather than treasurer?
No, I'm pretty focused on this treasurer potential right now. Just the ability to be the CFO for the state and really try to take a look at this through a fiscal lens. And as you pointed out, Dave, I mean, that's, I'm an in-the-weeds guy on that stuff, and I think that this would be a great potential for me to be able to try to save the people of West Virginia more money and be able to reduce the size of government. So, I mean, they're going to do whatever they're going to do, and this is really solely where I'm kind of focused right now. And, no, I don't think that'd change anything.
Riley, as you move forward on this, is there a timetable that you see in terms of, exploratory phase, let's say between now and kind of what date, and then moving in, if it feels good to you at some point in time, you actually form the permanent committee and begin campaigning? Any idea of what your timetable is?
Yeah, certainly, first or second quarter next year.
Okay.
We'll make a decision.
And meanwhile, the job that you actually work at that makes pays the rent, as they say, that's a job with a corporation in Virginia, if I understand correctly.
Well, we're all over the country, but in my office is actually in Washington, D.C. Textron is the name of the company. We own a number of other companies, Bell Helicopters, Cessna Airplane, Arctic Cat snowmobiles, and E-Z-Go golf carts.
I think I've heard all of those.
Golf carts?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you give
Let me know.
Can you give me a good price on a golf cart?
Yeah, I could. It might help me out in my end of the year number.
That perked Rob up, didn't it? Yeah. I could see you buzzing around in a golf cart in your neighborhood.
I need one that can get me about 100-something miles round trip to get me from here to my house and back. It might take me about 3 hours to do the drive.
That'd be a lot of fun.
Think of what I'd save in gasoline.
You'd probably go right through Riley's neighborhood, too.
Yeah, it'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, man. You get that up on your website.
I just get emails from folks, though, all the time from around the state, but specifically the one thing that I'm going to be proud of, and I said this in the campaign, whether I win or lose, is something I'm always going to be proud of that I was able to accomplish and feel good about, was that State Police Forensic Laboratory Fund that I was able to create. I mean, I get emails and messages on Facebook from folks like, my family finally got a day in court because of your work. I get messages from police officers. Thank you so much for doing this. I mean, we got this backlog down from almost 5,000 approaching now 0. And, that's not just Eastern Panhandle. It's people all over the whole state. And I want to be able to continue to try to find those type of solutions that are actually going to touch people's lives and make a difference.
Riley, have you talked to John? I assume John Doyle will continue to fight for Mark Twain money. I know you were very big on that, along with Senator Craig Blair. I assume he'll continue to trumpet that cause. Have you had any discussions with John about things like the forensic laboratory funding and Mark Twain?
No. Well, luckily the Forensic Lab Fund is on a glide path for the most part right now. I called him on election night a couple times. He didn't answer, so I left a message and then shot him a Facebook message. I haven't heard anything from him. Certainly Mark Twain funding is that's going to be a battle for him now. And the folks from the Eastern Panhandle delegation, and they're going to have to talk their Republican colleagues into wanting to continue to fund that train. And,
something we'll be watching for sure.
I think that's going to be an uphill battle.
Riley, thanks so much for your time this morning. Very much appreciated, and best of luck to you in your decision on making a final decision on running for treasurer. And I know we'll be talking to you about that a lot over the next couple of years.
Well, you all will be one of the first to know, and I really appreciate you always being open and allowing me to come on your show. And I've had a blast over the last couple of years, or more than a couple of years, because leading up to running and all that. Being the delegate and running for the delegate and talking with you all and for your listeners, certainly will not be the last time you hear from me unless Rob and Dave bar me from the show. So,
that could happen. You never know.
And when's that Riley Moore family going to be growing by one? Anytime soon?
Personal question, man.
No, well, yeah, I mean, we're also looking at that, but no news.
All right.
No news on that.
Thank you, Riley.
Riley, thank you very much. Riley Moore on the WVU Medicine Jefferson Medical Center talk line at 9:31. Samson Wright joins us next.
You've waited all year for Black Friday deals.
Black Friday deals at Miller's Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Martinsburg means great deals all over the lot. Like 2018 Ram Crew Cab Diesel with $10,500 off, or a 2018 Jeep Compass Sport for $19,855. How about a 2018 Jeep Renegade with $4,750 in rebates? Get over $6,000 off a 2018 Challenger SXT or $8,000 off a 2018 Charger. Get great deals like these and more with the Black Friday deals at Miller's Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram on Kelly Island Road, home of the lifetime powertrain warranty. Stock numbers 18527 and 18133. All payments based on approved credit, taxes, tags, and processing fees extra. See dealer for details. Since 1877, Farmers and Mechanics insurance companies have proudly supported our local community. Farmers and Mechanics has the insurance products to meet your needs, including home, auto, farm, dwelling fire, business owners, and umbrella coverage. Please contact your local independent agency for a review of your insurance needs and ask for a policy from the company that knows you best. Farmers and Mechanics Insurance Companies, just off Edwin Miller Boulevard on Administrative Drive in Martinsburg. FMIWV.com.
When you or a loved one needs medical attention, but the thought of spending several hours in a waiting room makes you feel even worse, did you know at WVU Medicine Urgent Care Centers you can get in line before you leave the house? WVU Urgent Care's online scheduling allows you to wait more comfortably at home or wherever is convenient. Simply visit our website at uhpurgentcare.com and select an arrival time. WVU Medicine Urgent Care with 3 convenient locations in Charlestown, Inwood, and now open in Spring Mills.
Toys for Tots.
The joy of living is in the giving. So let's give lots of toys for tots.
This year, Talk Radio WRNR is a Toys for Tots collection site. Bring your new, unwrapped toys during regular business hours to 1762 Eagle School Road in Martinsburg, and the Marine Reserves will distribute them to needy families in our area. Your donation remains in the Eastern Panhandle. Asks.
Would you take the money or would you give it back?
66 votes. 23 say keep it. 43 say give it back. Now, this is the ATM in Houston that was giving out $100 bills instead of tens. And later when it was discovered, they just said, people, keep the money. We'll take the loss.
I wonder how many people used that machine and got the extra dough.
I don't know.
Did they report that?
In the story, it didn't say how much.
Was it hundreds or dozens or a few?
I imagine it had to have amounted to thousands and thousands.
You think?
Sure. Because that could go on all night long before someone actually gets in the next day and discovers what's going on.
I wonder if...
Blame it on a vendor, by the way, who stocked hundreds instead of tens.
I mean, is that a vendor that comes in, or is that an in-house staff person that does that?
I assume it's an independent contractor. But have you ever been to an ATM and gotten a $100 bill? The biggest I've ever seen is 20s. As a matter of fact, it's pretty rare you even get anything other than a 20.
Yeah, usually it's just 20 and 10s sometimes.
Right.
Like if you get $50, you'll get two 20s and a 10. Depends on the ATM. But yeah, you're right. I've never seen a $100 bill come out. So,
right.
But here you are. So you go to the ATM and you say, I want, whatever. I want $200. I want $20.
So instead of two tens,
or 120,
you get two 100s.
You got two 100s. So you know right there that you got you put in for 20 and you got 200 out. Now what do? I mean, what's the first thing that goes through your head? I think a lot of people might say, "Hey, it's my lucky day. I just made $200. I'm out of here." And I'd look at my statement. That's what I would do. I'd look at my receipt. What does it say on my receipt?
The receipt's going to say $20.
$20. So now you know. I got a receipt. Hey, $20. I just made. I made how much is that?
$180.
$180. So I'm gone. And if it's in the evening, the next day you got to go to work. You might forget to go to the bank and clear it up.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if it worked the other way where you lost $180, I can guarantee you they'd be motivated to go to the bank the next day.
Sure.
You'd be on the phone that night to somebody.
Just
screaming and yelling, probably.
I would get caught and get in trouble and then get fined for an amount much larger than the amount of money I might have kept.
Now, I wonder if there is a demographic breakdown to the people. We have 66 people who have,
voted.
Offered an opinion.
43
here.
Give it back, 23 keep it.
I wonder if is there a Democrat-Republican break on that? Is there a younger-older break? Is there a male-female break?
I don't know.
I don't know that either.
Some of it might also depend on how poor you are, right? Like, I can buy food. I can pay medicine, right? I can pay my power bill.
That's a very good point. If you're struggling financially, then you're probably going to be less likely to take it back. I would think. Maybe not, though, because sometimes people who are struggling financially are still the most honest people, out there. They have strong morals and values.
But you got to feed your kids or get your medicine, right? Maybe keep the lights on.
And you didn't really steal the money. They gave it to you.
They kind of did give it to you.
They gave it to you.
Not your fault they don't know how to count.
It was a gift, right? What a nice bank I have.
I'm going to keep going there.
Coming to this ATM more often, baby.
As a matter of fact, I'm driving around and coming through again.
Exactly.
Maybe 6-7 times.
Right.
I love this.
But call my family.
You might also say, well, this makes up for the measly amount of interest they've been paying me for the last 10 years.
Now it's starting to make sense.
You start to dig in and get angry. 5/100%.
Finally getting my due back here.
2 cents interest on my last statement. I'll show you.
I love it.
It's 9:37. Samson Wright is our guest in this segment. Samson, good morning to you, sir. How you doing?
Good morning. I'm doing great.
Give the money back, Samson, or put it in the pocket and go, hey, it's not my mistake, it's theirs.
I actually gave the money back.
We are all in agreement on this. I give it back. Welch gives it back too. So we're 3-0 on this one. But then we're 2-1 in the ratio of giving it back in our audience.
Well, there's another category of people who wouldn't give it back but would say they would give it back. And that could be any of the three of us. In other words, we lie.
The lying majority?
The lying minority. No. There used to be the silent majority, but it was the lying majority.
Except in this case, I actually got too much money and gave it back.
Oh, you're
so
out of an ATM?
I was at a Lowe's or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I bought a power saw, and in making change, the clerk gave me $20 too much.
Yeah.
And I had my son who was 9 at the time. This is about 30 years ago. And I gave her back the 20, told her she'd given me too much change. And my son thought I was crazy. Why did you do that?
We had a question of the day, I think a couple of years ago, where it was a similar one, Rob. Remember we said, what would you do if you found a $100 bill lying on the sidewalk?
Sure.
What would you do, or someone's wallet? I think we asked that as well. I mean, and that's a little bit different. I mean, if you just found a $100 bill lying on the sidewalk, what would you do with it?
I'd probably there's no way you're going to find it.
There's no way you're going to find it.
That's a different story.
Yeah, it's a different story. So,
but if the store you just went into gives you $100 accidentally,
sure,
I give that.
Yeah, exactly right. So you have been busy lately. You got very involved in the Chris Wilkes campaign.
Yes.
I saw you at a number of occasions, and I certainly think you were for the right guy, and appreciated that. And I think, to your credit also, when you lost the primary in the 63rd to John Hardy, you got very involved in helping John as well. And I thought that was a good sportsmanship on your part.
Well, I think the people spoke, and the better candidate won.
So you are also a member of the Berkeley County Republican Executive Committee.
Yeah, I kind of think of that as the cult of John Overington.
Oh, well, tell us why. Why do you think that?
Well,
the cult of John Overington.
Okay, unbeknownst to me, before I ran, I was appointed, and I had no appreciation for how packed with John sycophants the committee was. And then I got elected, and I was still pretty ignorant about his influence. But then I was critical of the committee more than once because they don't seem to do anything. And I guess John took it personally. And Gary Kelly certainly took it personally when I called him inept. And
I might take that personally, too.
Yeah.
Well, if you're inept, sure. Anyway, I was at loggerheads with these guys and his supporters. And so last Saturday, before I had a chance to resign, which I was going to do anyway, they voted me off the committee.
Before we get to that, voting you off the committee, because I'm certainly interested in that, but when you talk about the conflict that you were having as a member of the committee, let's just put this in perspective. First, how large is the committee?
12 people.
12 people. You get elected by the voters on election day on the Republican. Is it the Republican primary when that vote takes place, or a general election?
Republican primary.
Republican primary. So people actually run to be on the Republican Central Committee.
Correct.
And then that committee then becomes a part of the statewide West Virginia GOP. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So in these 12 members, here you find yourself first appointed, then elected as one of the 12. When did the conflict begin, and what were some of the issues? In other words, you called them inept. And those, as Rob pointed out, I can understand Gary Kelly and John Overington both taking that personal. What were the issues that led you to be in disagreement with them?
Well, their lack of activity in terms of supporting Republican causes or candidates in accordance with the terms of the executive committee bylaws.
And so when you say a lack of activity, they just were sitting around not doing anything, or they weren't proactive, they weren't raising money for candidates?
All of the above. They meet for 1 hour a month, and they strictly adhere to 1 hour. They can't get out of there fast enough. So what do you think you can accomplish in 1 hour a month? I mean, the first thing you're going to do is Gary's going to give you an agenda, which you have no idea what's going to be on it, which it's a pretty safe bet, not much. And then you're going to spend the next 20 minutes discussing the minutes from the last meeting, and then there may or may not be any new business. Lately, they've been talking about modifying the bylaws. And that gets really interesting because you want to guess who is the chairperson of the committee to modify the bylaws?
I would have no idea.
John Overington.
Okay. So John's very active in the Central Committee. He has
He's
been for a very
very
long time.
Well, he's very active in controlling it.
Let me jump in here a second here, Samson, because I know you're laying into John and Gary Kelly and the other members of the committee, but when I look at the election results, Republicans own Berkeley County. Mike Folk, who ran for state senate, won Berkeley County. He lost Jefferson County to John Unger, but he actually won the vote in Berkeley County.
They have all 5 county councilmen.
The head of the committee, the head of the party in the state won Berkeley County, and there are statewide office holders and federal office holders who lost in Jefferson County but still won Berkeley County. Chris Wilkes crushed Berkeley County, won Jefferson County, but nowhere near as impressively.
The only things that the Republicans don't have is the one seat that Jason
which
Barrett,
is a city seat,
right? And sheriff, which is was an odd election.
So isn't the executive committee doing their job by getting their people elected overwhelmingly?
Well, no.
But isn't that what the job of the committee is, to promote their candidates and get them elected, isn't it?
That's correct.
But aren't they doing that?
But you're discounting the efforts of all of the other people, like Gateway Republican Women, the Republican Club, EPBA. There are a lot of other groups that are active. My wife and I, we spent $650 with WRNR to promote John Hardy.
Yes, you did. Thank you.
I did it because you guys are effective.
Well, but I'm not discounting those efforts. But I'm not also picking apart their efforts. I don't know how they operate.
Is you're saying because a Republican executive committee exists, any success in the county they exist in must be their responsibility.
No, but what I'm saying, I'm not giving them the total credit for all this, but I'm also acknowledging the fact that this committee is in place and all of the candidates in their party won. So they can't be that ineffective, can they? And not just win, they won convincingly. I'm not saying they're more effective or any less effective than any other organizations you just added, but they are part of the pie that made up a successful election day.
Right, but let me put it in perspective for you. The money that the executive committee spent came from the Gateway Republican Women, which is a club, and the Berkeley County Republican Club. The executive committee, because it doesn't raise money effectively, only had about $2,000 to spend. They spent $6,000 on ballot cards. Well, they didn't have $6,000, so they were spending someone else's money. Mm-hmm. Now, and you raise an interesting question. Let me give you a little background. I spent 5 years as an examiner for the Federal Election Commission.
Right.
I've been a CPA for 40 years. I'm a certified fraud examiner. So I'm sensitive to financial issues. And when somebody sits down and tells me they've spent $10,000 they don't have, I get a little concerned where the money came from, how they got it, how they were reported to the Secretary of State. Now, at the last meeting, Gary Kelly says, oh, we've got this, quote, scheme whereby the landlord of the Republican headquarters downtown on Queen Street is going to, quote, kick back the rent to us, the executive committee. Well, that's all very interesting because we didn't receive rent. We didn't pay rent. We had nothing to do with the rent. That was all some other entity.
That's just pretty serious. It's almost like you're implying there's fraud going on.
Well,
it's
because,
a serious allegation.
Because that would have to be reported as a campaign donation. If it wasn't reported, then they might have a legal problem.
Right. And what causes me pause, you're absolutely correct. Do I get to see the treasurer's reports that are submitted as a member of the committee? No. I don't know anything about what Pam Brush's reporting to the Secretary of State. Now, I can find out
you're a member of the committee.
Right.
I just want to get this straight. A member of the committee, executive committee, and you never saw a financial report?
Not anything filed with Secretary of State. Nothing, ever.
Did you ask to see a copy of it?
More than once. That was the source of the conflict.
And who?
I'm asking for that stuff.
So Gary Kelly or John Overington told you what? You can't have it?
Didn't respond to it.
They just ignored you?
Basically.
Okay, so now we move forward then to the issue that you'd brought up before. You and what prompted the invitation for you to come on the show this morning was that you said to me that you had been voted off. Now that implies they all got together with you or without you present.
Well,
and they
with both. I wasn't there when they came up with this scheme, and I was there for the formality. Now,
was this literally a motion was made to remove Samson Wright from the committee, seconded, and then a vote was taken
correct.
To remove you?
A vote I was not permitted to participate in.
Is that allowable in the bylaws to remove someone from the committee?
Nowhere.
It's not specified.
Nope.
So they took that upon themselves. You're duly elected by the voters on a ballot to the state committee, and they sat down and they voted you off the committee. Did they tell you why?
Yeah, it was a little weird. John, of course, took exception to the fact.
John Overington took exception
to the fact that I wanted endorsement letters, and I wanted the committee to endorse Chris Wilkes, because frankly, I wanted the better candidate to win, and I had no love for Tim Armstead, who I consider a political hack, and or Evan Jenkins, likewise, a hack, a reward for who knows what. I wanted a jurist who had these stupid commercials they ran about how they were going to be tough on drug lords, crime.
Well, first of all, that's a reasonable position that you would have wanted the committee to endorse Chris Wilkes. No one was more critical of that committee than I was on this show when they failed to do that. And I'm still not happy with the executive committee not endorsing the local judge. I think it was it made them look out of step with the majority of Republicans in Berkeley County, as I see the situation. However, it was their right not to endorse, and so I don't argue with their right to do that
David,
or not to do that.
It may have been their right, but I was at Food Line grocery shopping. Eric Householder called me to do endorsement letters in response to my repeated criticism of everybody and their brother doing endorsement letters but the executive committee. Gateway Republican Women, Blue Ridge Patriots, the Republican Club, everybody was doing endorsement letters. Hey, why not the executive committee?
Can I ask you one question? When you took that vote, wasn't there a vote to endorse Chris Wilkes that passed, and then a second vote to withdraw, or was there just one vote not to endorse? Do you remember?
There wasn't really a vote. Gary Kelly circulated an email about voting, but it didn't appear that the votes got counted. It was kind of weird.
All right.
But I get the phone call from Eric. I'm at Food Line. I contact the candidates, including Wilkes' office, and I said, hey, I want a one-page endorsement letter, 2 paragraphs, one about how great you are.
Samson, hold on the rest of that thought because we got to get to our commercial break right back after this.
With 4 new car dealerships and 4 used car dealerships in 3 states, Parsons is the largest used car and fastest growing new car dealer in the tri-state area. Take Parsons Ford with huge savings on hundreds of new Fords, financing from 0%, Parsons' goal of financing for all, and Parsons' famous above market trade-in allowances that help make Parsons #1 for used cars too. See why so many won't buy anywhere but Parsons Ford in Martinsburg. We became #1 by making you #1 first. Parsons.
L.A. Roberts is Berkeley County's oldest jeweler, where every season is new and exciting. In fact, new is old school to us, and though it's nothing new, our old traditions like exceptional service, quality, and value maintain L.A. Roberts Jewelers as the old master among so many new kids on the block. Whether you're a newcomer or part of the old guard, entrust all your fine jewelry needs to L.A. Roberts, Old World Jewelers for a new age, in historic downtown Martinsburg.
If it's been a while since you dusted off your estate plan, now is the time to do so. Failing to plan for your estate not only increases your estate and your heirs' potential tax liability, it may force the sale of a liquidation of your business that could result in a financial loss and further hardship for your family members. Cox Holiday & Professionals has experience in planning for the unexpected and strategizing to reduce tax liability. Call us today at 304-263-0891. Cox Holiday & Professionals, your future, our passion.
After removing your creme brulee from the oven, your dessert should look just scrumptious. Now sprinkle with some sugar and use your torch to braise it to a golden, crispy brown.
Disasters happen. Fire, water, and natural disasters. Tell your insurance provider you prefer Blue Ridge Property Restore. Blue Ridge Property Restore, getting you back from disaster faster.
Join us next week when we tackle Baked Alaska.
Just a couple of minutes left with Samson Wright, former member of the Berkeley County Republican Executive Committee. This segment brought to you by the Berkeley County Health Department of Waverly Court in Martinsburg. And I know they've been very busy with the flu shot this year. And David Welch got his from the Berkeley County Health Department.
I did indeed. I don't think it has fended off a cold, though. I need a cold shot.
Not its job, baby. Samson, you were just mentioning, we only have about 2 minutes left, your dissatisfaction with the Berkeley County Executive Committee, Republican Executive Committee, and your discussion with Eric House. What about getting endorsement letters?
Yeah, so I got letters from all the candidates, and I emailed them to Eric. None of them were ever used, so I'm not clear why they bothered to ask me and then not use the letters. It never made much sense. But fortunately, the guys that I was most concerned about, well, most of them anyway, ended up getting elected, and that was John Hardy, Larry Kump. Of course, Marshall was unopposed. I was really disappointed in our lack of a strong support for Michael Folk, because I thought he should have been state senator. And you know, to your earlier comment, Rob, yeah, he won in Berkeley County, but he lost the race.
Yes, well, but you have no control over Jefferson County.
But we have some control over our overall activity, you know, in getting him across the line. I mean, to me, stopping at the county line doesn't make a lot of sense. It didn't make sense in Wilkes' case, doesn't make sense in Morrissey's case, doesn't make sense in any of the statewide races.
I know we don't have much time left, but it seems to me that and maybe I'm wrong, but it seems to me your real beef here is a personal one with the authority of John Overington over the entire process of the Berkeley County Committee.
You're probably right, Dave.
That instead of being a Democratic committee, small d, Democratic committee, where majority rules and there's discussion and input by everyone, that you're really suggesting that John Overington is sort of a boss hog, if you will, of the committee, and you resent that.
I do very much. And I want to see the new kind of Republicans, as exemplified by Hardy and Beebe and Wilson, have a good shot at being successful, both for the benefit of Berkeley County and the Eastern Panhandle and overall the state of West Virginia. And John doesn't represent the new Republican. John is the ancient Republican that needs to be replaced.
Very interesting.
John will be with us, by the way, tomorrow in the 9 o'clock hour. John Overington, that is.
I'll be listening.
Samson, I got about 30 seconds. A final thought.
My thought is I'm very optimistic about the future because of the people that did win. I'm very optimistic for the state of West Virginia because of the policies in place. I'm sorry Riley lost, but I'm happy to learn he's going to run for treasurer.
Thank you for your thoughts. I got to wrap up on that note. Samson Wright, former member of the Berkeley County Republican Executive Committee at 9:58. Final minute next.
It's Happy Honda Days with your favorite Care Bears. Me, Grumpy Bear.
And me, Cheer Bear.
Remember how happy you were getting us as a kid?
Happy.
Get that feeling again with the Honda CR-V. It comes with a standard rear-view camera.
Hooray!
Plus available Honda Sensing.
Yay!
Get something you'll love during Happy Honda Days. Well-qualified buyers can enjoy 1.9% APR on the 2018 Honda CR-V.
Miller Honda, south of Winchester, home of the lifetime powertrain warranty. www.mymillerhonda.com.
Valid on CR-V LX only. See dealer for financing details.
Talk Radio, WRNR.
Hi, I'm Philip McCoy. Ameriprise Financial has been serving and supporting this community for decades. We believe that every dream is personal and needs a personal plan. That's why you can count on the Mirius Group, a private wealth advisory practice of Ameriprise Financial Services, to understand your unique needs and goals. Whether you want to make the most of the money you have, save for a comfortable retirement, or plan to leave a legacy, the Mirius Group can help you realize your dreams of today and tomorrow. Call the Mirius Group at 304-263-4343. Our office is located at 1270 Winchester Avenue, Martinsburg, West Virginia.
Ameriprise Financial Services Incorporated, member FINRA and SIPC.
That'll wrap it up for our program today, and a big thanks to Samson Wright for being in studio with us today. Riley Moore on the phone, and David Walker as well. And tomorrow, John Hardy, and in the 9 o'clock hour, Delegate John Overington, soon to be retired Delegate John Overington, I might add, will be with us for a full hour on tomorrow's program.
Good show.
Tomorrow or today?
Good show today, and I think it's going to be pretty good tomorrow. I mean, I would imagine that John Overton's going to have something to say about the remarks of Mr. Wright this morning, I would think.
I don't know if you're making a prediction or a summarization.
Both.
It's 10 o'clock. The Glenn Beck program is next. This is Talk Radio WRNR Martinsburg. Talk to you again in 22 short hours.
CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by TheraWorks Relief.
I'm Deborah Rodriguez, Republican.